Okay. Welcome, everyone. Did everybody get an agenda? It also has the minutes. Anybody need a copy? Thank you, Shelley, for always passing them out for me. I'll pass it along. Ready? Is that a go? Ready? Okay.
Can we throw one up to you, Mike?
Welcome, everybody. Thank you for staying for today's meeting, and for those of you who are online, thank you for being with us also. If you have something that you want to say while you're online, if you could, can you do the chat up there, Mike? Just type, if you have a question or a comment, feel free to type it in the chat and Mike will pass it along. Dusty, since Orlo's not here, will you do the microphone running around thing if people have something to say, please?
I know how to run around. I need to do it so I can get my steps.
Okay. So we'll call this meeting to order. We have a bunch of stuff to get through today. Information sharing, abundance in abundance. Dusty, I'm just going to ask you to open us in prayer, please.
God, thank you for our church, for Lynette, for leadership, Pauline. We're grateful to be together as church family to continue to operate in the way we honor you. God, we pray for our mission and we connect people with God, one another, and the needs around us. We submit this time to you in Jesus' name.
Amen. Thank you. Okay, the first thing that we need to do is we have two sets of minutes that are attached to your agenda. Because I forgot to include them at our last congregational meeting, we did not approve them. So we have the February 27th minutes and the June 26th minutes. So if you would just take a minute to review them, see if there's any questions or changes, and if not, I would appreciate a motion to approve them as presented. Anybody have any questions, let me know. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay, so you have on your agenda some out of order old business. So we have a little out of order old business to take care of. So it seems that a special date passed us by when someone was traveling. So we decided a surprise anniversary celebration would be just as good as a surprise birthday sign was. Dusty started his interim with Federated on August 1st of 2020. We installed him as our senior pastor on August 1st of 2021. We didn't get to celebrate on August 1st of 2022, so we have a few surprises for you today. We say our prayers for you each day and know God must have heard. We felt the answers in our hearts, although he spoke no word. We didn't ask for wealth or fame, we knew you wouldn't mind. We asked him to send treasures of a far more lasting kind. We asked that he'd be near you at the start of each new day, to grant you health and blessings and friends to share your way. We asked for happiness for you in all things great and small, but it was for his loving care we prayed for most of all. Love your Federated family.
sins and griefs to bear. What a privilege to carry everything to God in prayer. Oh, what peace we often forfeit. Oh, what needless pain we bear. All because we do not carry everything to God in prayer. Oh, have we trials and temptations? Is there trouble anywhere? We should never be discouraged. Take it to the Lord in prayer. Can we find a friend so faithful who will all our sorrow share? Jesus knows our every weakness. Take it to the Lord in prayer. Are we weak and heavy laden, cumbered with a load of care?
Surprise.
I'm just thinking there was a lot of pictures of me.
Lord, thank you for Dusty. Thank you for his leadership, for his genuineness, his vulnerability, his teaching, his love and compassion. We just ask that you would continue to keep him safe on his motorcycle. Bless his life, bless his family. Thank you for his opportunity to serve together with him. Amen. That's a little gift for you.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay, Diane, you're up. That's right.
Well, this is a hard act to follow after that video and everything.
Oh, let me just say one thing. Thank you to Bob and Pauline who did the video.
Oh, it was very good. Okay, I've handed out a sheet to everyone, I think, about the remarks I have for this last few months. I am so pleased that we are working with Janaea Shoup-Michael as our new financial secretary. She has been a joy to work with. She has gone through a lot of our records and made suggestions, and we couldn't have asked for anything more. So we're very pleased. As Dusty has mentioned a few times about our 4% gap on the pledges, already some funds have started to trickle in for the Close the Gap. And so I'm very pleased about that. One of the things about Federated is you are so responsive to any calls for Better Than a Buck, anything like the special campaign, and it's joyous to see. I've got some information in here about our current checking account, some money in our money market, and payroll coming up, of course, which is every month. I also have some information in here about balances in our reserve funds. We have some funds that are not supposed to be touched unless there's a special vote, and so I only include in here the funds that are useful for us right now to spend. We're talking about the 75th anniversary coming up of Federated, and one of the things we would like to ask is that we have 75 pledging units for the next year. In 2021, we ended up with 60 pledging units. We still have people who are very, very faithful in giving money promptly, but they're just not a pledger. And I also thank folks for that, because whether you're in the A column or B column, it doesn't matter. The money comes in, the money's put into the bank. Talking about 2023 budget, one of the things I think, because we are looking at the church's mission and values, I think more often, and it's in our bulletin, that we need to take a look at those and see how we want our practical budget used to fulfill all of those values. If you think we need to spend a little more in this and not so much over here, we really want to focus on fulfilling our values that we've decided to go on and fulfill. I will be getting some information to all of the teams about what they have spent so far on 2022 expenses, and so hopefully they can use this information and then help to determine what their next year's budget, what they would like to see on that. Thank you very much. Any questions? No questions.
Thank you, Diane. Thank God we have somebody to take care of the money, because it isn't me. Okay. So it's been a busy first 3 quarters with the new governing structure, and it's time to begin to evaluate and share the things that we've learned as leaders. In October, each team will take a look at what they've done during this calendar year and how they've functioned in the new structure. The Coordinating Ministry Council has met monthly, but not with everyone present the initial plan called for, so we need to reevaluate the frequency of that meeting and its attendees. We've been meeting every month. It has always been in person, and that's up for review as well. The role of this council is to keep all teams updated on what the other teams are planning and what their needs are. All new ideas are presented by team leaders to the council prior to initiating new programming. That allows the teams to help with parts of the bigger picture. Any expenditures beyond the budget of any particular team will be discussed at this council and then presented to the executive board for final approval. The fellowship team has continued to meet on a third Sunday after worship if nothing else is going on. There have been a couple of scheduling conflicts that required some people to be elsewhere, which reinforced our need to have the church calendar up to date. So Joyce and Dusty are working hard on that. The fellowship team helps out with the food portion of any planned event. Tamara has joined the core fellowship team and together with Deellen initiated game night, which is scheduled for the third Friday evening of the month, unless otherwise advised. The fellowship team assumes responsibility for setup and cleanup of food-related events. Lately, there have been several hands that pitch in to help with cleanup. So if cleaning up is your gig, too bad Scotty's not here because cleaning up appears to be your gig. We need you. We're going to need you today too because Lynn is going to have to leave early, so my normal right-hand person is not going to be here for helping with cleanup. So after lunch, anybody who can stay, I appreciate it. Mike continues to lead men's fellowship the third Saturday morning of the month with coffee, donuts, and fellowship time. So that's a great thing. The outreach team is being led by Scotty and has been meeting monthly, although finding a meeting time was a bit challenging. Currently, we've been meeting between 6:30 and 7 on the third Tuesday of the month. There are usually 4 or 5 of us at that meeting. With many other hands out there, we've done the Carrie Newcomer concert, a Habitat Women's Build, the First Responders Appreciation Picnic, and the Hunger Hike so far. We received a thank you letter from the chief of the West Lafayette Police that I'd like to read to you. Dear Federated Church congregation, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to your entire congregation for hosting the neighborhood picnic for our area first responders. The food was delicious, the door prizes were a great surprise, and everyone there was so pleasant. There is nothing more rewarding to a first responder than to know they are supported by the community they serve, and you provided that last Sunday. The picnic was more than just a social gathering. It was a symbol of public trust and community partnership, something police agencies across the country are yearning for. Thank you so much for all your hard work putting this event together. It means more than you can know to us. Have a blessed week, and if there is ever anything we can do for you, please don't hesitate to ask. Sincerely, Troy Harris, Chief of Police. Coming up, we have trunk or treat scheduled for here on Halloween night. We're encouraging you all to sign up to decorate the trunk of your car, or if you don't want to decorate your car or you don't have a car, you can bring your candy and sit in a chair and let kids trick or treat to you just the same. If you don't want to come for whatever reason, feel free to consider donating some candy or hot chocolate or marshmallows, because we're going to serve that night. More info is coming about that. Debbie's heading up the trunk or treat stuff, and we'll be needing some worker bees. So if you're interested in participating that night, please let her know. And of course, we will end the year with Jubilee Christmas. Scotty and Stacy are leading the troops with that outreach program, because one of the main parts of Federated's mission statement is meeting the needs around us. This is a group with lots of opportunities for people to get involved. If you've not been involved yet this year in a project, please consider participating in one or both of these end-of-year outreach events. If you are unable to do so, cash donations are always welcome, right, Diane? Cash, take cash. One last topic on the outreach end of things is the running of the bus. The bus has not been running for quite some time, mostly because there have only been 2 or 3 people needing rides, and getting into the bus is almost dangerous for some of those folks who need rides. Currently, people are being picked up by individuals in their personal vehicles. If you need a ride, please call the church office and let Judy or Joyce know that you need a ride. And likewise, if you're willing to give someone a ride, please let Ty Cobb know. You won't have to do it every single Sunday unless you just prefer it that way. Marketing and media are meeting regularly, and with their presence at the Coordinating Ministry Council, they are fully involved in the advertising for whatever event is planned. They've been instrumental in increasing attendance to the events we have put on so far this year. They are doing a phenomenal job with the streaming of worship, updating our presence on social media platforms, as well as our Federated website. They are creating every opportunity to make people aware of the goings-on at Federated. The worship team, led by Dusty, also meets regularly and has been introducing new twists to our worship service. We have had different people do announcements. Online people have done them too. There are new people doing worship leader, changes in the order of the service, Wayne leading us in praise songs, Wayne and Gary sometimes playing together, and recently they have been talking about the return of serving communion the old-fashioned way and passing the plate as well. The issues are that they're trying to streamline worship so that time spent in passing communion and passing the plate add extra minutes to the service that could be considered empty. So we're trying to minimize empty space except where it's needed, like quiet prayer time. You might have noticed that I no longer do worship leader because, as you all know, I'm wordy and not good at keeping my writings to 4 or 5 minutes. So I just choose not to do that. The readers are trying to be sitting in the front of the church to lessen time waiting for them to walk up to the pulpit. If there's a change that you enjoy or a change that you don't enjoy, please feel free to let Dusty or myself know. They are also doing Vespers at Westminster this afternoon, actually. The care team also meets regularly, but they meet during the day. The rest of the teams meet generally on Tuesday evening. They continue to minister to folks that are shut in, grieving, ill, or in need of spiritual support. They are reaching out to folks in the congregation via phone, visit, email, or card in an attempt to have everyone feel a part of Federated and no one feel left out. They've begun to have social events at Westminster and sponsored a get-to-know the pastor luncheon for new folks. If you or someone you know is having surgery, going through a difficult time, or just in need of some extra TLC, they are your folks. Barbara Amos is that team leader. Also, another thing I just thought about, probably everyone knows, but Sarah Rawlings is the person who's in charge of funeral things going on. So if you know that somebody has passed, please let her know, or Dusty will let her know, but we just need to keep her in that loop. So if she needs to be here, she knows when she needs to be here. Spiritual development needs some more people on board. There's a lot happening here, but with Susan's retirement, the need for help with worship and wonder and the children's message is vital. Dusty has made arrangements for several people to volunteer to do the children's moment, as you've seen through, I think, November. But we really need some core people on the team with Dusty and Bill. Both of them have been doing Sunday school lessons. Recently, we combined the 2 adult classes, and they co-led the class. Sarah, Jim, and Debbie have done classes for the youth, but we all need some focused time and attention to figure out the best way to do that programming. So if you have some interest and desire to help out with the youth, please let Dusty know that. Bill continues to do a devotional on the last Wednesday of the month at Bread and Broth, and he recently did a spiritual retreat on a Saturday, which we now have a goal to do twice a year. It was really a good day. I believe there's a women's Bible study on Wednesdays. Dusty mentioned it today, and Debbie has mentioned possibly doing a women's retreat in November. We are in need of some folks to work together in anticipation of Advent programming for our kids, too. Our one remaining soul group has taken on a new name, Saints and Sinners 22. There was an old Saints and Sinners group, and since they really are not having soul groups anymore, we elected to update our name to a more current one. And we continue to meet on the first Saturday of the month from 10 to 12 in Trimmer Hall, and anyone is welcome to attend. Right now we're studying a book called Listening to God. With all of that being said, over the past few months, we've been trying to figure out the best way to move forward with the executive board. It is apparent that a one-year presidential term is not adequate. However, if we make it a 2-year term, then the person would need to be willing to make a 4-year commitment. And that is a lot for anyone to undertake. So we as the leadership team would like to submit the idea of a 3-pronged executive leadership team. It would be the president-elect, the president, and the past president. That would allow each president to work on a team for 3 years. It seems to be the best idea that we've come up with so far. We're not wedded to that idea, but clearly 1 year is not an adequate amount of time for that role. But in order to have a president-elect run consecutively, a 4-year commitment is just too much, and a 1-year commitment is not enough. So the best idea that we've come up with to date is president-elect, president, and past president. So moving forward, at our next meeting, which will be December 11th, there might be a meeting before that, but our next meeting is scheduled for December 11th, when the nominating committee will have presented their folks for the new slate, and we'll have elections so that they can be done before the end of the year. If anybody has a better idea of how the executive board might work so that the president has time to be involved, start ideas, work through plans, and accomplish some things, we're open for ideas. Pauline has begun to check with individuals who might be interested in working as president-elect. So we all know that it's a time commitment, and hopefully, we're in a constant state of change right now. Our online audience is grown and consistently present. Our in-house worship is consistently around the numbers. A lot of time. But there's also a lot of reward. If someone would have asked me, I've told you this a million times before, if somebody would have asked me if I wanted to do this, I would have said no. I didn't want to do it. The only reason I did it is because Gerald tricked me into it. I didn't even know I was going to have to. Who knew president-elect meant you were going to be the president? I thought it was vice president, not president-elect. Anyway, Diane's already spoken to the work of the trustees. However, their main focus is the ongoing maintenance of the building, property, and managing the money that we have access to. They recently entered into a contract with a program called Life Without Boundaries. Those folks began using our building for their day program early in August. Things seem to be working out well. Dusty meets with them regularly, trying to iron out some building maintenance issues with them, but things seem to be going well. The executive board continues to pursue opportunities to work side by side with other churches, other community agencies, and seek opportunities for our building to be used by those needing a meeting space in our community. Growing our federated family is imperative, but so is connecting to the needs around us. So that brings us to the Sanctuary Refresh Project. There's been much work to try and get some solid quotes on the full scope of the project. I intend to share with you today the scope of the current project. Our plan is then to present information to you over a several-week span to get your input. Following are the items that we've been discussing over the last few months. The pews are the first thing that we discussed, and we will discuss each section of potential refresh changes that same way. We'll have pictures, we'll have cost, we'll have some descriptors of the things that we're presenting, but we're just not going to present it all at once. It's too much. So I'm going to give you an overview today. We've talked a lot about the modesty panels. If you don't know what modesty panels are, they're these. We've had, before I was even here, modesty panels up here for the choir, so they've been removed. We've talked about removing these center panels from here and over there, widening the steps because the choir has difficulty fitting in there right now. Once we started talking about removing the internal panels, we decided that we would have an interior decorator look at our sanctuary, explain to that person the kind of environment and feeling that we wanted our sanctuary to have when we come and when new people come. And when she gave us her original concept, she also presented these walls being removed. So modesty panels are here so that the people who are sitting up here are not just on full display. So we've talked about maybe having modesty panels that are removable. So if there was the chancel players were doing a play here, or there was some reason that we needed to move them, they would be removable. So that's one thing. The next thing that's is a big issue is the color palette, because it's complicated because it involves the carpet, the pew cushions, the cloth behind the lattice, and the lattice. So recently we had some folks in here to do estimates and found that the fabric up here is dry rotted and a fire. So we really need to get rid of that fabric no matter what else we do or don't do. It's a danger to us and we can't leave it there. So if we replace it, we'll have to replace it with something that's fire retardant. So again, we'll be asking for your input on those decisions and presenting them just in a smaller bite. We want everybody to have input into this process. We know not everybody thinks that we should even do anything. We know that people think we should only maybe do the carpet. People think we should only do lighting. So, you know, it's kind of like Dusty was preaching today. There are many, many different opinions that we have. And our job is to move Federated forward. So all of those opinions are welcome and need to be heard. And, you know, we just decided as the executive board that it made sense to try and give you as much information about the ideas that are out there as we can. And so that's what I'm trying to do today. We will be installing a hearing loop. So that's some kind of hearing thing that goes underneath the carpet. So it, again, is something that we'll have to do at this point. With the frequency that we change carpet, probably we should just go ahead and do it now. That hearing loop will allow anyone who has hearing aids to hear more clearly and better. And there's also some talk about perhaps replacing some speakers that will increase the quality of what those of us who do not wear hearing aids are also hearing. Lastly, we talked about a mechanical lift that would allow folks who are on walkers or wheelchairs or scooters to be able to have access to this chancel area up here. So we've done some research and gotten a couple of ideas of what it would cost to have a lift here so that any of our church members who wanted to be up here, to run a meeting, to be in the choir, to do worship leader would be able to do that. So you know when you start a project and you're going to paint, then painting leads to carpet, and carpet leads to pew cushions, and pew cushions lead to all kinds of things. So the trustees and the design team and the executive board have tried to stay focused on the things that we feel will help Federated move forward, the things that will present us to folks walking in as a community that's concerned about its building and does well to maintain it. At some point, certainly I'm willing to answer any questions that you might have today, hear any suggestions that you might have. We are nowhere near making any big decisions because we need everybody's input. And we had to get together some quotes and some ideas so that we had something to present, even though it's somewhat vague. So hopefully, those of you who are in attendance will be able to participate in the displays that we have. Those of you who are online will also be able to do that. There will be a way for you to be able to express your opinion and vote on whatever we're talking about on any particular week. So, budget. Thank you, Dusty. New governing structure evaluation, and moving Federated forward with the sanctuary refresh are the topics of the day. I'm willing to hear any questions or comments, if anybody has any at this point. I know it's a lot of information to absorb. Yes, Bill, you've got a microphone coming. Hold on.
I don't hear anything from you on how you propose to pay for all this remodeling you're going to do.
Well, we've talked about that. It's a very, very good question. You have another piece? Go ahead.
Say it again?
Is that the end of your question, or do you have more?
Well,
I have an
remember-
answer. I just don't want to cut you off.
Well, we talk about this, and I think all you're saying is fine, but remember, we've run a deficit in the budget since 2017. Now, luckily, 20 and 21, we got $50,000 from the federal government, so we broke about even.
Right.
But We've got a $22,000 deficit this year. We're going into '23. So how are we proposing to pay for all this remodeling when we can't even support our operating budget?
It's a very legitimate question.
That's a question that I have. I think what you're doing is fine. I think dollars spent to do things for the public by bringing in speakers and out for the outside to get to know our church will bring us more members than beautifying the church inside.
Okay, thank you. Good question. It's certainly been a point of discussion. We've talked about some money from the trustees' budget. We've talked about some money from the endowment, and we've talked about a capital campaign. It will probably take something from those three sources in order to do whatever it is that we decide as a congregation we want to move forward with. I think that this year our deficit will be less maybe than we anticipated it would be, but still, it's an issue of concern. And we have to decide always how we want to spend our money. Do we want to spend our money and try and grow our congregation? And of course, the answer to that is yes. The risk is trying to figure out which decisions to make. And it's not an easy answer, but that's the most legitimate question. Laura Marie?
Sure. So my question is just, well, I have a few questions.
Okay.
At some point, will you share who is the interior designer we hired and the consultants?
The interior designer that we hired was Arcor,
Okay.
and frankly, we were not thrilled with the response that we got, and so we took the information that she gave us into consideration and will likely use part of it, but not all of it.
Okay. All right. And then other various consultants hired
So nobody's been hired yet.
or
We have-
utilized?
We've had several people come, and probably Mike can speak better to that, several different people come to give us estimates. I know that several of them I can't think of them right now. Thayer's, I think, has given us estimates. I'm not sure.
They're for painting. Who was giving us the estimate for the carpet?
Miller's.
Miller's. And the hearing loop?
That's another company in town. It's safe to say that we have at least one bid for every aspect of the potential project. We're still waiting for a couple more bids to get a full picture of the potential cost. But we've got contractors from multiple areas of this.
And just so I understand the structure, the bids are shown to the trustees and the executive board and the design team, and then you guys kind of sort through them, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And my other question is also, it's like Pastor Susan has retired, so we don't have any kind of youth pastor. So are we deciding to forego that position going forward? I mean, and that,
Great question.
okay.
Great question. So part of our responsibility, as Bill said, is to figure out how best to use the budget money that we have. So we had Susan write a list of the responsibilities that she dealt with on a pretty regular basis and provide that to Dusty. And so through the end of this year, that staffing issues are at the top of the discussion. I can't tell you that I have an answer because I don't. We would like to be able to have all the staff we can afford. And so we need to figure out what that staff will look like and how to get the money to pay them. So at this point, we're just holding steady. But that's another decision that will be presented to the congregation. We're not going to make any big decisions about those kinds of things without having a discussion with you all.
So one discussion would be, since we are running in such a deficit, like maybe just refreshing the sanctuary as much as financially is financially prudent and absolutely necessary, like the fire hazard you discussed, and a hearing loop. Maybe the hearing loop could go under the carpet we already have. I don't know, just an idea. And as far as youth pastoring, maybe a per diem person or a part-time, just putting that out there, just because this is the discussion portion, no. So I'm just discussing.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, and I think that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Dusty?
Yeah, can I just remind you that there's a reason why I'm asking to close the gap. It would sure make staffing issues easier if I knew we had some money. And so if you can help us close the gap, there are multiple things at play at one time, and we're trying to do the multiple issues and focus on what's most important.
Jim? Or Dudley? Dudley was next.
I'm old. You're supposed to go to these old people next. That's
Well, you...
I was just wanting to comment about the hearing loop. I don't know. The last time I got a hearing aid, I was sold on getting the receiver in my hearing aid that would, where I could use it. At that time, I found out who had loops installed. There were only a couple of places, and when I've been those places, I've pushed the button that switches my hearing aid from regular hearing to the loop. I've never found it any better. And so what I'm suggesting is if you could get some feedback from other people who wear hearing aids and if it had experience with the loop technology before we invest, it might be a good idea.
Great, thanks, that's a good idea.
Maybe they could actually do a demonstration in a Sunday service if they have that capability.
That's a good idea, too.
I'm chair of the endowment board, as you know, probably. And one thing I've tried to do, I served for 5 years on trustees too, and I always pushed pretty hard for us to improve our facility whenever possible, because I feel like the people that over the years have been involved with Federated and left generous, very generous amounts of money for us to utilize have intended us to use that money. And it's not because of a lot of our funds are based on stock market performance. This isn't a real great time to be taking money out, but over the years, the endowment fund has done pretty well. And we aggressively addressed some issues this year and went a little bit beyond what we usually spend on a percentage basis. I'll tell you, as chair, I plan on, within the boundaries of the funds that we have, trying to use those again this coming year. Working closely with Kay, who does an outstanding job managing our funds. But I plan on that. I don't plan on stepping back any from what we did this year, next year, again, within the boundaries that are set for us. The other thing I'd like to say is on the Christian education thing. I've been kind of involved with Christian education for a few years, and it's like a lot of other things. It's like helping in the kitchen, and you can wait for somebody to ask you to do it, or you can just do it. there are people here that are capable of teaching classes and doing worship and wonder and all kinds of stuff. So I would not want to wait until we actually hire somebody to use those opportunities.
Absolutely.
Did you raise your hand, Hank? No.
I'm sorry, go over Vanna.
I just wanted to, well, concerning the fabric behind that, and I've been up in that cavity before. Have we ruled out, because I got cut off from the last trustees meeting because of our limited Zoom capabilities, but have we ruled out the use of the pipes in the organ just due to the cost going forward?
No, we have not.
Hold on a second. There is an issue with that, and I'm only speaking because I was at the meeting when we brought the.
Can you pass that microphone?
Right here.
Thank you.
All right, one of the issue is the pipes, right? And the pipes are behind on the left and the right sides, and they're a problem, right? And I think Milo could probably address more of the cost, but we were told by the guy who is looking to take down and put new fabric in, that if you're going to replace the pipes, you do it now. You don't have another opportunity, because in order to do the pipes, all those panels have to come off the wall. The pipes most likely have to be removed and rebuilt, I suspect. And so it is a major undertaking which could add another $150,000 to $200,000 to the project. So the question really, the congregation already voted to eliminate the pipes by installing an electronic organ, right? So the congregation did vote to do that. Yes, they did. We did. Voted to have an organ. No, they voted to have an electronic organ.
We did vote to have an electronic organ with the understanding that someday in the future, when we won the
Right.
lottery and had $150,000, we might address the pipes again.
So at any rate, the contractor is from Lebanon, Indiana. I don't remember their name exactly. Tool Contracting from Lebanon. He has done churches. He's removed lattices and reinstalled lattices. And he had a lot of good ideas. The project will be extensive. He's trying to minimize the amount of time that it will take to do it. We are hoping, based on what he told us, I think Orlo may have the figure in hand now, but he's on vacation. On the day that the guy was here, he said he was hoping he could do the project for less than $50,000. All right, so that's pulling all of the lattices off and fabric, fire retardant speaker fabric that would go back.
But not rebuild.
He does not rebuild organs, so it is not rebuilding the organ, and I don't know that we have funds to rebuild an organ, and that would be a more extensive project because this whole area would remain open until the organ was reinstalled, right? So at any rate, there has been no talk about removing the pipes from when we tear anything down. We didn't talk about removing the pipes. One of the options that we did talk about was putting drywall on the two sides to help reduce the cost, but that's also something that could be taken down easily to get access to the pipes if somebody wanted to do that earlier. But we're getting on the estimate what it will cost to do the lattices directly in front of you, and then separately what it costs to do the two side lattices. And so those are the things that we're looking at from the guy down in Lebanon, and he's also quoting the new covers for the seats.
And he was the one that actually called the fabric dry rotted.
Yes, absolutely. It was his determination.
Does he have the qualifications as far as being, because that's the fastest way to get, I hate to
No, he is, I don't know his exact qualifications, but he's an industrial person who works with fabrics, and he's done projects at Eli Lilly, West Lafayette Public Library, he's done at Central Presbyterian, he's done several churches in the state of Indiana. So I trusted him based on the experience that he has.
Patty?
So this is coming from my Healthy Children's Project hat. You don't want material that has retardant in it because it gases off. You want material that is flame resistant. So
probably that's my naivete using that word.
No, I don't think so. No, I don't think so, because a lot of materials, like your jackets that are waterproofed, it's the same, again, it's added on. I think that I would be very interested in part of that presentation being drywall. I think that's something that we really have to look at with a textured drywall material. I'm not married to the lattice work. So I think that would be something that I would be interested in seeing, all the different options, not just.
Right. And you will. That's my whole point of saying there are so many pieces to this that they'll be presented piecemeal to you so you can address them. Laura Marie, were you going to say something?
I'm really loud. I was just going to say that, yeah, indeed, whatever would give us more access to, if we wanted to go back to the organ option, maybe it's nice. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, so easy access is a good thing, I think. That's it, folks. We're done.
Well, that's timely. Anybody else have any last comments that they would like to make, questions that they'd like to ask? Yes, Jenny Webb, who is here in person.
Well, I don't know if I can project well enough without the mic, but I'll try. I am listening to us, and I know this is not a decision-making session. So I just want to throw out my concern about it's feeling like we're perhaps cutting back on staff in order to be able to finance what we're doing. And I don't know that that's, thank you, the intent at all. But I think that children and youth need somebody who's consistent. And all of us fitting in to fill in from time to time, that's a good thing. But I think of Sarah and Sue and others like that who have been there for the kids of Federated Church. And it isn't something that Dusty alone can do.
That's right.
Agreed.
He has too many.
That's right.
Even
It's
though
true.
he will try.
It's true.
And you guys cannot let him do that.
So I guess I'm saying I want us to keep it separated. Staffing, what do we need to grow? And we know we have to take care of our children and youth in order to grow, one aspect of growing this church. So let's all keep that kind of thing in mind as we're thinking about doing all these wonderful things, which I'm not against any one of them if we figure out how we can fund them. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. Anyone else? Okay, Tom.
Well, I think the sanctuary actually looks pretty good compared to some other churches that I've seen. And so I feel like that for the church running a deficit, that to spend money we don't have on something we don't need is just foolish for the church, frankly.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? It's important, I think, for everybody to realize that we do really want to hear everyone's opinion. Because whether we agree with everyone or not, whether we agree with someone or not, their opinion and their life and how Federated impacts them is important. So I invite all comments and questions from anyone, anytime. How about you close this and prepare and pray for our lunch, will you? Because I'm starving and I want a hot dog.
All right. Thank you, God. Thank you for the love we have within the church family. We're grateful for this place that is operating as the church that we get to use for our ministry. As we consider all the things that are before us, God, we continue to ask that you give us wisdom. Now we also pray for this food. We thank you for those that have prepared it. In Jesus' name, amen.
And one more thing, just so you know, Dusty's favorite dessert is cheesecake. And so today we have cheesecakes from Sweet Revolution for dessert. Thank you to Barb Tyner for picking them up for me. Thank you. Thank you.